Hi everyone, welcome to another series, a limited series, if you will, of reviews where we're going to be tackling Fear Street. That's right. So over the next few weeks, Netflix has decided to drop a trilogy of movies, that are all based on, inspired by R.L. Stein's series of popular teenage horror books from late 80s, early 90s. So let's go. Part one of this Fear Street trilogy dropped on Netflix on Friday. It is Fear Street 1994. And really what this is it is a 90s slasher film. It's kind of like throws back to those, fun but also serious slasher series like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, those kind of things. We pick up in this town called Shadyside. It is next to a place called Sunnyvale, but as you can tell by the names, some stuff goes down in Shadyside. It's known for these gruesome murders that happen every few decades, and they're all just kind of written off as, well, they're crazy people that are from here, and that's just what happens. Someone goes nuts, they kill a bunch of people, they die, and then it's sad. This time around we have this group of teens who they not wake up the witch, but they kind of bring attention to one of the kids, and these group of friends have to kind of figure out what's going on, how to stop it, how to save their friend. This movie, if you love horror films, if you are a big fan of things like Scream, this movie is for you. Horror that knows it's horror and it tries to have a good time, but also, it's not super scary. It's a lot of fun, and really that's what this is. It's a fun horror film. It's directed by Lee Janiak, and she directed the whole trilogy, and it's like I said, it's her love letter to kind of these types of horror films. Very Scream, very The Faculty, very maybe sprinkling a little bit of new stuff from like Blumhouse, and you've got this cool like throwback, it feels like, and it really just feels like this big love letter to horror, and that's a lot of fun. That really, I keep saying it's fun. That's what this movie is for horror fans. It's just a fun time. It's predictable, yes. Some of the acting probably a little off, but that's okay. Like, this really is, like, it knows what it is. It knows it's a little like schlocky. It knows that you're gonna know what's happening, or you're gonna call what's going on. There's a character in this that's a lot like Tatum from Scream, and you love to hate Tatum, and you're sad when she dies, and that's kind of something similar happens in this, and you're like, oh, you kind of like fell in love with these characters, even though they're all like, that's what's also kind of fun. They're all like kind of not great people too, so it's a fun twist on that of like, hey, these are not your A+ students. These are students who, you'd be like, they're a little rough around the edges. This is a very gory movie, I will say that. Not like gory, but I mean, I was kind of like, ooh, dang, like that's, whoa, like you see things, and so I think I went in thinking, oh, it's R.L. Stein. These were books. This is gonna be kind of low key. And we're not going to see too much, but no, this thing is like bloodier than Scream. Yeah, that's what this movie, it's like, if you love horror films, you love like slasher films, and if you love the 90s, like that's who this movie's geared towards. I love both. It's such a fun movie that you forgive it for some of the things it does, like throwing like three songs right at you. Like, in a 30-second span, like just doing 3 needle drops, like extreme needle drops back to back to back in like a 30-second span, you forgive it for that. It feels right, and it feels like something horror fans are just gonna go nuts for. It's your typical slasher film mixed with some fun lore. The whole town has this legend to it about a witch, and that's who, you know, like started all these murders, or, you know, kind of possessed these people to murder other people, and then those killers come back as ghosts and are kind of helping the witch, and it's that, all of that I love. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of cool, you know, like just backstory that doesn't feel too like heavy, you know, like it doesn't feel like just an exposition dump anywhere. Except for one moment where it is a giant exposition dump, but then you start to kind of see what they're doing, and you're like, okay, I am on board. Each movie we're going to go further and further into the past, but I'm sure there will be elements of all 3 time periods by the end of it that kind of resolve each other. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm geeked by this. Like, I love this type of stuff. It is, man, like like I've been legit excited ever since I found out there were going to be 3 movies and that they were all going to release 3 weeks apart. I really just can't stop thinking about it on my way to work, and just, you know, last night, like, I just kept thinking, man, I love this so much, and I cannot wait to see how they pull off the second one, and how they really pull off the third one that takes place in 1666. And it is the event of the summer for like horror nerds, and that's a lot of fun, and it just excites me. It's cool that Netflix was like, yeah, let's do this. This sounds fun. This is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna give it 2 ratings, and then I'll kind of do an average. So, as a movie, as this surface level, is it good? Is the acting great? It's just a I would give it like a 6 out of 10. You know, there are things, like, if you are just a casual viewer, you'll be like, yeah, that was a nice hour and a half. But then if you are a horror fan, as I've been talking about this whole review, this is, like, to me, like a 9 out of 10. It's just so fun, and I love it, and I can't stop thinking about it. So average those, you probably have about like a 7.5 out of 10. This really is like, it's just a good time. It's just a movie that I'll definitely put on in October, this trilogy, and just kind of like let it play in the background, or just, you know, this is something I want to revisit every few years, or put it into the Halloween rotation. Like, let's just, I mean, like, come on, now we've got these movies, and we're gonna have Hubie Halloween. I mean, that's it. That's like a whole marathon right there. Chef's kiss of a horror movie marathon right there. Here we are again, here on a Monday morning to talk about some spookiness. It is Monday, July 12th. We are right in the middle of Netflix's spooky summer series, Fear Street, and we just got the 2nd installment a few days ago. And let me tell you, I'm in love with this. I'm blown away. I'm just like, I'm smitten with this. Is so great. I'm just like, I am now 100% on board. To talk about this, we obviously have to get into some spoilers for the last movie. I know I tried to avoid doing that in the first video, but since we are now in the second part, I assume you're watching this because you've at least watched the first part. Fear Street 1978 picks up right at the end of 1994. Dina and her brother and her girlfriend Sam, who is possessed now by the witch or by something. She tried to kill Dina at the end of the last one. And so they are going to find someone who they spoke to in the middle of the first movie, someone who has kind of gone through what they are going through. They go to C. Berman's house, played by Gillian Jacobs, and she goes into retelling the story of her and her sister at camp in 1978, and kind of this massacre that happens. And yeah, that is the movie. The whole trilogy is a mystery, and this kind of pulls the curtain back a little bit more. And this movie, whew, man, it is awesome. So if the first one is your Scream, the second one is your Friday the 13th. They are at a summer camp doing drugs, they're having sex, they're swearing, there's rivalries, and all of a sudden, a maniac shows up with an axe, starts killing people. When I say killing, I mean like brutally murdering people. It doesn't take as long to get going, which is awesome. So I mean, right from the get-go, we know some names, things start happening, and the pacing of this movie is just like, it just goes, and it's fun. So yeah, we start to learn a little bit more about the curse. We learn a little bit more about this rivalry between these two towns. And really, the way I can describe this is, so the first sequence of the first movie is about, this dude goes crazy, murders some mall employees, and then is killed. And then becomes like this henchman for the witch. What most of this movie is almost that, but longer. So we really do see kind of that, someone's taken over, and they just go nuts. And then they only go nuts on certain people. And it kind of fills in those little things. I was worried it was going to feel the same, but it doesn't. It's almost like it expanded a big part of the first one, and then kind of capped it off with a little bit of what happened in the first one. It's just such a fun mystery. Like I was like, I could watch 10 of these movies right now. It's just so engaging, and the characters are a lot more, not likable, but they're a lot more, they feel a little bit more fleshed out, and they're actually getting, all of them are at least given a little bit of backstory. It feels like a awesome second chapter, and so you're really invested. You're invested in your 90s characters, you're really invested in your 70s characters as they're being chased by a maniac, and the way that it connects everything, and you're starting to kind of see things connect, and you're like, okay, all right, I see what they're doing there, and I love it. This is obviously a huge homage to something like Friday the 13th. I mean, the killer has a back on their head, like straight out of Friday the 13th Part 2. And it is like I said, it is gory. It is, the kills are, like, it makes me think about like Randy's rules in Scream 2. The body count's higher, anyone can die. Like, it really is, you're just like, oh, man, they really did just like crank it up a notch. And it's awesome. I mean, again, do not watch this with your kids. It is gnarly, and you're like, ooh. And there are some moments where you're like, whoa, we've gone there. The movie starts with The Man Who Sold the World, the Nirvana cover, because it's 94 there, and then it ends with the David Bowie version. And there's a reason, like, I'm not going to get into some of that, but there's a reason why there's choices like that. And so you really do, like, that's what I love about this movie, is it feels bigger, it feels more fleshed out, and you're able to pick up on so many little things now, because you already know, or you've kind of, you understand the premise of these, like chapters and dates, and you're like, okay, cool. For this one, I don't need to kind of separate it. I would give this one like a legit 8 out of 10 across the board. It's great, it's fun, it's gnarly, like it is, man, it's just, I don't know why more people are talking about this one than the first one, because this one is like way superior to me. So for the future now, the next installment, this is the one I was wondering about. We're going to 1666. How are they going to do that? Are we going to lose the connection to the characters that we've really learned to love and we've grown with? And turns out they are a part of the story. You get a little teaser at the end of, so it seems that Dina, she is going to be we're getting the witch's story, but it's being told with these actors and characters that we already know. I'm also very excited to see how they do the music, because I think a lot of people made fun of a little bit of like, okay, it's just we're just cranking out the 90s tunes and then we're cranking out the 70s tunes. I mean, are we going to be like needle dropping green sleeves like in the middle of this, like that would be awesome. I honestly hope, and we'll talk about this more next week, I honestly hope that this is a franchise that continues, that Netflix says, let's do this every summer or maybe every other summer, because man, it's just nice. It's just nice to have this and to look forward to like a movie trilogy that you're gonna get in 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh, if you love horror, just please go watch it so we can have more. Thank you.
Spooky.
Oh my god. Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. But here we are. Again, it's Monday. Oh, no. Hey. No. Bad. And that's my review. Why do we let me do this anymore? I don't know. Hello and welcome to the final installment of this Fear Street Mania Monday, which I've just titled it. Should have come up with that 3 weeks ago, but you know what? You live, you learn. Atlantis said that, so that has to be true. And now we are at the conclusion of this Fear Street trilogy that Netflix has so graciously given us. This is the conclusion, but also the beginning of this Fear Street story. And so I'm gonna forewarn you, we are going to have spoilers for the first two movies, and then we will probably likely have some spoilers near the end. It's just, that's the nature of the game. So 1666 picks up right after 1778. These pretty standard. It's just kind of one continuous story. We have Dina. She is in the woods. She is trying to return the hand of Sarah Fear to the body of Sarah Fear, which we figured out were separated, and that maybe, and this is kind of how all the characters think the curse is going to end, but she then reunites the body. All of a sudden she's sucked into this kind of flashback, like very interactive flashback, and she has been taken to 1666 to a place called Union, which would later become Sunnyvale and Shadyside, and we see the origin story of this curse. I mean, you know that something's got to be up, because why would we go all the way back here if we all know the story? So of course there are some things that are uncovered, but we kind of see everything lead up, and you see moments that you're like, okay, it's all starting to make sense now. This is, we talked a lot in the last episode about things starting to fall into place. This really finishes that off, and you really start to see why the town is so awful. So like the last two, you definitely saw what it was, kind of harkening back to, whether it was 90s horror or 70s and 80s horror. And then you have this, and it's kind of like there are moments that feel like something like The Witch from a few years ago, but really more it's kind of like The Crucibles. It's like kind of this, we're in this old town, there are some bad accents, so we kind of see where everything, like what started it all, and then we go back to 1994, and then you get this second title card that's like Fear Street 1994 Part 2, and we see the conclusion of the whole story. So that's something that was kind of nice. It's, this was the one I was most worried about, I think, because I thought, okay, how are we going to spend so much time in 1666 and I just don't want it to spend so much time there and then quickly wrap up. I was pleasantly surprised that it kind of all came back for the last half of the movie, because that's the story we've invested in, is Dina and Sam and her brother and the sheriff, and now Ziggy, and kind of wrapping up her story. And so yeah, the last, like the first half is, it's good. It's nothing like special. It's, you have the set pieces, you have some decent acting. Yeah, it's fine, but also it's more of a vignette, if I'd have to say anything. And then the last half of the movie is this wrap up, and you find out kind of who's behind everything and why they're doing it, and then you kind of see how they stop it. And it is just it's just a satisfying conclusion when you're given a guaranteed trilogy, you're given a strict vision. Things play out and they nail it, and they like really nail the ending of this movie. And when you find out who the person is, I'm not going to get into it, it's a time, you know, like you want to tell yourself that yeah, that's pretty obvious, but at the same time they do a moment where they look back and they kind of you see that, oh, I should have seen it a lot earlier, not just as it's unfolding, you know, like it kind of challenges you and says, did you really know? They had that plan in place. They knew what to do to not tip their hat too much. And but also where if you went back and rewatched it, you'd be like, yeah, actually I don't know why I didn't see it coming. So that was a lot of fun, you know, and just having this kind of epic, you know, 45 minutes to an hour of like, okay, we're in it. We're being chased by all the bad guys. We're outmanned, outgunned, and now let's just use our wits and what we've learned to take everyone down. I just love this trilogy. It really is a cool experiment in, okay, let's drop a trilogy of films right after each other and kind of see how people respond, see, you know, how people's views of the other ones change as they watch it, because that happens normally in trilogies, but to see that kind of just happen over 3 weeks, that was really neat. I still think the second one's my favorite, but like even this one, you're just like, man, they are just like nailing these, and it shouldn't happen. And again, I think you go back to watch the first one and you're like, did I love it as much? And you still do. You just have to kind of remember, oh, it was the first one. They had a lot of heavy lifting to do right there. It has scale, but it also feels very personal, and it doesn't just, you know, it knows what it is, and what it is a homage to things I love. And so again, I've said this every single video. If you love horror movies, you're gonna love this movie and these movies. I'm gonna rate this, and I'm gonna rate the series as a whole. So this one, I'd give it's a good, like, for me, I'm gonna go like 6.5, 7. So I'll fall like 7 out of 10. And then as a series all together, working together, I'd give the Fear Street series trilogy, Fear Street trilogy, like a solid, like 8 out of 10. I love these movies, and yeah, I can't wait to rewatch them again, and I'm excited. You know what? Reverse that. Let's go back for a second. I'm gonna add one more point to my final score. So we're gonna go a 9 out of 10, and that one extra point is just for giving the Pixies the love they so deserve in movies. Man, 3 Pixie songs, incredible. And they're all from Doolittle, incredible. I love it. Put more Pixie songs in movies, please. And thank you. Hey.
Un esercito di pro